Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the 312 HRP Podcast. This episode, we're going to be combining the work hard and play hard sections. The full episode will also be available on YouTube with video. My name is Samantha Plude. I am the office coordinator for the Farmington, Connecticut office, as well as being the chair for the Women's Employee Resource Group here at HRP. On today's podcast, we will be speaking with some of HRP's working mothers, discussing the ever-illusory concept of a work-life balance. The question we're asking today is, have you been able to find a balance between being a working professional in our industry and being a mom? And if so, please tell us how. So our mothers today cover a full range of life stages. The children, we've got newborn, middle and elementary, high school, and college and all grown-ups.
My name's Deanna. I obviously work at HRP. I'm a senior consultant here, and I have I wouldn't consider him to be a newborn anymore, but he's about 9.5 months right now. Yeah.
Wow, he's already
fast.
Big man. His name is Orson, or Ozzy for a nickname. I guess I'll tell you a little bit about him. He's absolutely out of his mind right now. He just started crawling. He claps his hands like this at 3 a.m, so that's very fun. He bites now, which is strange. I didn't think that was going to happen. He's out of his mind.
He's busy.
Yeah, he's got a lot of stuff going on. So in terms of work-life balance, when having a newborn, older child, or I guess they're not a toddler yet. I'd consider him a young.
He's a baby.
He's still a baby.
He's a baby.
He's still a baby. It's definitely a challenge. The short answer is no. I have not figured it out yet. Every day is a new exciting thing, but I guess I can start with kind of a little story. We had a nanny for the past 2 months that was helping me out because I'm doing kind of part-time here, 30 hours, and the rest taking care of him when I can. So we were going to have her to help us out 2 days a week. And she decided that she was going to quit, which I completely understand. She got a really nice job with a rich family who was giving her full benefits, sick pay, all that stuff. I would have taken it too. But now I am left with no nanny. So the past couple weeks have definitely been a struggle trying to work that out. But I'm very thankful to HRP in general because of our flexible, schedule that we can have. So I'm working from home mostly all the time, as you guys haven't seen me in the office. But we are very lucky right now that it is summer and we have 2 teachers in our life, my sister and one of my best friends, who are now helping us out during the week. Ooh, I just hit that to supplement out. And then I guess in terms of, balancing it when I'm taking care of him at home, nap time is work time.
Yep.
Dad done for the day. Baby time for him, work time for me. So you may see me on at really strange hours. It could be 7 p.m. It could be 5 a.m. I don't know. But, yeah, we're working through it. But it's definitely a challenge at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does sound like you're doing good, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're trying as hard as we can.
Yep. That's all you can
That's
do.
rough. Yeah.
But you guys have all been there.
Having the work flexibility is key.
Oh my gosh, it's
Yeah.
everything. It's
Yeah.
everything.
It's so important. When I was going through that, it was just me, Maslin, and from 6 weeks on, she was in full-time daycare. I saw her at night, and that was our schedule. I actually had her at the daycare near my office so that we had the drive in together and the drive home. We sang songs. The things that were in my CD player were ridiculous.
That was special time
But
for
that
y'all
was
to be
it.
together.
It was our quality
too.
time.
Yeah.
You fit it in where you can. So it was the drive became quality time, and the car was set up like a playroom. It was hilarious.
Yeah.
But you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, we did do daycare for a little bit, but he was just, as you guys know, sick for 4 months out of it. And
that was crazy.
yeah, we had
Another
to just
nice little layer on top of
just
that.
like being
whole
sick,
thing.
trying to work, taking care of him. Norovirus was really fun.
Oh goodness.
Do all of that.
There's just too many.
Yeah, hopefully you guys will have some advice for me as I move forward in this
Play the
lovely,
lottery.
lovely time.
Can't win if you don't play. Play every day.
We do. We lay on the floor and we wave our hands in the air, and then I drink
new
beer
items.
afterwards.
It's the new definition of work hard, play hard.
Yeah.
It's work hard, play lottery.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
That's great.
Yeah. So that's, yep. Nailed it.
Next is
You are
You can
nailing
cut
it.
that.
You are
nailing it.
Yeah.
So, all right. So I'm Alicia Washington. I am a principal and director of pursuits and engagement here at HRP. My children are 6 and 9. So I have a first grader and a fourth grader going into. So that's great. So I've been a mom for 10 years because I was pregnant too. So I'm going to take that. as
Yes.
Yeah, that
momming
counts.
around
Agree.
that time.
Definitely counts.
They took my body away from me, so that's when it started. So for 10 years now, I think the balance, obviously, as mentioned already, the flexible work environment, which it's everything. Like that's really what helps us be not just moms, but good moms. I think that for me, I'm 41, so I started doing marketing in AEC when I was 19.
Wow.
So I started my career really young, and I really liked it. I was getting lots of opportunities. So my 20s were not about having kids and getting married, and it was about my career and traveling and doing fun stuff. And so not that I didn't want to get married and have kids, it just wasn't, that's not what I was looking for around that time. So I was able to do a lot of things earlier in my career. So then when I finally did, meet my now husband and have kids, I mean, I got married at 30. I had my first kid at 32. So I was, and I think more these days we're seeing that people are having kids, older and getting married older than the typical, 20, 21, 22. I was able to have my kids and be there for them, and I didn't have to do all that other stuff that I feel like people have to do in this career, like the night events and all that stuff. I still had to do travel and stuff like that. So I think that was a blessing for me because I was able to get my career to where it is now, that now I can actually, I'm at the level that I am. I have a great team. I can pass things on. I can do things that I want to do in terms of like, RFPs or jumping into other stuff I want to do, and then be able to get home for them. I will say too that as, if you take your career seriously and there are things you want to do, a mentor of mine told me a long time ago, like, do as much as you can when they are younger, because once they get to an age with sports and all this other stuff, you're not going to be able to make it to every game or everything. And if you're the kind of parent that wants to be there, you can't have, be president of every organization and you're doing this and doing that, so you want to make those decisions to do things like that, to volunteer and do other stuff when they're younger. So that way you can be there for them as they start, doing different things as they get older. So, I think that for me, it's not really a balance. It's more of a, like, we just doing it.
I feel like once you get to that age range for them, you just have done it for so long that it's just smooth sailing.
We're just rolling now.
You learn how to
rolling
juggle.
with the punches.
You learn how to juggle and you just keep it going. You just gotta keep the balls in the air.
And for moms too, we take on a lot mentally as women anyway. It's unfortunate, but it is one of the things that God gave us. So, mentally we struggle a lot with guilt. We struggle with imposter syndrome. We struggle with all these things. And, it's really important for us to actually every day just wake up and just be grateful for one thing. Like just say thank you for one thing. I'm happy I woke up, because not everybody wakes up, so just saying one thing every morning that you're grateful for, because we tend to always say things that we do wrong. Right. Oh, I can't get this right. I can't get that right. We never actually say, oh, well, I'm really proud of how fast I cleaned this kitchen. Like now I can actually sit and watch TV with the family, or now I can actually, do this or that, because I got this out of the way. Because there are some times where dishes stay in the sink.
Yeah.
And I go to sleep because I'm too tired to do them. And I'm like, well, I'll just do it in the morning. So those nights when I get them done, I'm proud of myself.
Yep.
And I say, you go, girl.
Dang, I should start thinking like that,
You
because I feel
gotta,
like when you're in the
gotta.
trenches of that
Yeah.
like really early newborn stage, and you're just like, I'm not taking care of myself, I'm not taking care of my pets, like
Yep.
all of this stuff. I'm gonna start doing that.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Take the
nothing too
wins.
big, nothing too small. It's just, every achievement
Yep.
is a win.
My daughter's gotten to a point now where she's like my little coach, my little life coach. And, she's 7 years old, and she'll come home from like a night at her dad's, and she'll walk in and like the dining room's clean and the kitchen's clean. And she will give me a hug and pat me on the head, because she's almost as tall as me. It's gross. And she will say like, you did a good job, Mom. You had a good night. And I'm just like, aw.
Yeah. That's so sweet.
It's sweet and yet sad that you noticed. But that's how she is. She's observant, and she knows how hard it is. And she knows that some nights I will come home and say, all right, we're ordering in because I need to spend time with you.
Yeah.
And we do it. Well, we order in. I don't cook, and I love cooking. And that's my happy place. But there are nights where we just we order a pizza, and she hates pizza. But she'll sit there and she says, I'd rather play a game with you, and we'll do board games nights
Right.
together.
That's very sweet.
And then she goes to bed, and then I go back to work because I'm crazy. So
Well, that says a lot about you as a mom.
yeah, you gotta. That's it. If you, and that's it. Like that's where I get my feedback from. It's when she says nice things. So I'm really glad I have one of those, because if she didn't, I'd have to be my own life coach.
Just wait till
Right,
she's like
right.
15 or something.
That's that. And then it'll be negative stuff, but
Yeah,
it's
probably.
okay.
Hopefully not.
Maybe she'll be nice. Yeah. I should start like recording it so I can play it back.
Yeah.
When
Back
she's
for her, too.
15.
I guess that leaves me for the next. I'm Jane Smith, as you guys know, the Canadian in the group. So I'm currently I'm one of the licensed engineering professionals here in the office. I've only been here about 3 years, so I have gone. My kids are 12 and 14. 14-year-old's going to be 15 in less than a month, and he is half an inch away from being 6 feet tall.
More
But,
time, my girl, too.
So I have been through those stages that you guys have all talked about. But I also had a little bit different experience in that I've worked at like 3 different companies during that time span too. When my oldest was 6 months old, the company I was at lost a big contract, and I was the regional manager in everything but name for it, and so I got laid off. But I had a part-time job before I even had my last day of work there, so that worked out. But it was actually kind of nice. The timing was good. It was like end of April when I had my last day, so he was 6 months old, and I got to spend the summer having enough money to, help out with the household costs, but I also had all that extra time with my oldest. So I feel bad sometimes when I think about my youngest who didn't get that, because
Right.
by then
Yeah,
I.
there's
But
the
I
guilt.
did.
There's the guilt.
There's the guilt. Oh, I have.
Yep.
Well, don't get me started on the guilt. The kitchen alone. I can't. But my kids are now old enough that they are supposed to be helping me.
Clean the
Yeah.
kitchen.
Yes.
And they're off
Chores.
school.
Yeah.
And they're done school now. I refused to touch the kitchen because I asked them to do it 2 days ago. There is not a single glass clean.
You should be coming home to a clean kitchen every day.
This is what I keep telling them. I was like, I don't even care about the rest of us. Just
Give me-
unload the dishwasher and load
I'll
it
call
again.
him for you.
Do you have the sports and everything?
Oh, my
too?
goodness.
Oh,
Yes.
The
well, I do
crazy
with my
schedule?
oldest. My youngest, he started with sports, but it's not really his thing. He's a small group kid, homebody. He's the artist in the family.
Yeah.
Yep.
He also wants to be an engineer, so
Nice.
Even better.
There you go.
after his mom's heart. But my oldest is in sports. He's done soccer and baseball, and now he's doing football. And
Wow.
it's
Track.
track. He did track and field this year, this spring, and he's going to keep that up. So
Nice.
yeah, it's driving all over the place.
Yeah.
And,
And expensive too for when they go into some of those programs like AU
yeah,
or something. Like if
well,
you
the
choose
school
to
ones
do
right
that.
now, we're lucky it's not too bad, but
Yeah.
they cap it at $200. Like it's $100 per sport, but they cap it after 200, so your kids can do more sports, but at least at our school. So for now, I don't know. The budget is a whole other thing at the school, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
For a different podcast.
That's
Yeah,
a
that's a different
different
podcast.
discussion altogether. but yeah, it is a challenge to try to meet all those, and I have had to miss some games, but like we said before, the flexibility is so important. I managed to when the kids were really little, my husband and I just made that decision. Instead of going after another full-time job, I took that summer, worked part-time, took that break that I very much needed after being so busy and so stressed from the 0 to 6 month years of because I can remember being one time I was sitting there, it was like, because he was born in July, so at the end of, it was Christmas time, the Christmas tree was up, and I worked from home. I was able to work from home 2 days a week, which was awesome. But one of those days, like the first time he sat up, I wasn't watching. I'd missed it. And he was right beside me because I was on the computer on my laptop. He was playing on the floor beside me next to me and the Christmas tree. And I just remember looking over and he's pulling at one of the baubles on the tree, sitting up. And I was like, I think I had a mental break that day. I pretty much shut my laptop down and started working. I was like, I can't believe I just missed that. So, I mean, that's the trouble is you get stuck in this cycle of when you're at home with your kids, you're worried about the work you're not getting done. And when you're at work, you're worrying about the time you're missing with your kids. So having a balance is very hard.
That's even how I feel right now.
Well, that's
and
what
I'm
I
in
mean,
the
like,
office. And when he was at daycare, I'm like, what's he doing there that I'm not seeing? Like, what new milestone is he hitting?
I was lucky the kids my oldest he never did do full-time daycare. My youngest did for 1 year. But then, as he got, like with different part-time jobs, I started working full-time again. He had my youngest had his first day of kindergarten the same day I started full-time again. So big days. So
would you say this age group is easier or different?
Well, it's easier in the sense that you don't have to worry as much about them getting, they do have to worry about them getting into things, but it's a whole different level of getting into things because it means they're mobile. The 14-year-old or almost 15-year-old now, he goes out bike riding with his friends.
So independent.
Like it's the independence is starting. And so but I don't have to worry about leaving stuff out. And, they've started to learn how to cook. They can cook a few things. They know where the snacks are. So if I'm late getting home from work, I'm not rushing to catch a bus anymore because they're both past, because they're going into grade 8 and in grade 10. So we're past the me having to be at home for the bus. Because the number of times I remember trying to drive, I worked in Hartford and would be stuck in traffic trying to get out of Hartford to get up to Enfield to catch the friggin' bus, because if I wasn't there, they were taking him back to the school.
But the trade-off is you have to leave early to make it to the meets and the games.
This is true. The trade-off there is...
And now you're stuck in traffic on the way through Hartford to get to the meet, wherever it happens to be. But you've done really well, I'm going to say.
The difference there,
you have not missed many.
I've made it an effort to try to make it to as many as I can.
I don't plan on doing as well.
But I am also, and that's part of why...
Sam.
I don't plan on doing it.
Part of why I've stayed as when I moved from part-time here to full-time, I'm a 32-hour person. And part of that was a conscious choice so that I would have the time to be able to say, I can put in my hours for the day and still make the track meet or whatever. And also get them to school in the mornings, because those kids just will not get out of bed. Catch their bus.
Another teenage thing.
That I'm not looking forward to.
I'm sure Jackie would know more about
also a
that.
specifically teenage boy thing.
I know. When I was a teenage girl, I did not want to get out of bed either.
No, I didn't either. I've never been a morning person.
I think
that's what I remember the most is my mom screaming. Because it's like the 20th time she's called for me, and I'm still under those blankets. And I'm like,
oh, I'm the same.
So
I was
painful.
The same way, but I grew up. My high school was a 10-minute walk from my house.
I'm not.
So,
I had buses to make. My mom worked retail. She needed me out of that bed and on that bus. And
my mom was a working mom since when we went. My sister and I were the youngest twins. When we went into kindergarten, she went back to work part-time, or I guess full-time. I don't know. It was retail job though. But I mean, it's just so different this day and age, because I can remember at kindergarten, we would come home after school. Maybe not kindergarten, maybe grade 1. We only had half days, so she must have been there. But, walking to school on her own at that age, nobody batted an eye.
It's such a different, it's just a different world now.
Yeah, it's so different.
It doesn't make it easier. It's just different.
Well,
and it might make it difficult. We might have made it more difficult for ourselves.
I'm curious to hear about
Jackie's
role. with a college.
Yeah. Well,
College. I don't want to know about college.
Okay. I've got college looming on that 3 years of school left before you got to start thinking of how the hell am I going to pay for university?
That's right.
Yes, Jackie.
Loans.
How?
How do you do that, Jackie?
You could always donate plasma.
I love it.
So just listening to y'all, it's like, I'm glad I have a beer over here because my son is not even a month away from being an adult. So I am the very proud parent of a 17-year-old young man who's about to become an adult. So we just graduated from high school in May. He starts Virginia Tech in August. And so, oh my gosh, just listening to all of y'all and the phases that y'all are in just totally takes me back. And, Deanna, starting with you, I started with HRP when my son was about the same age as your son.
That's
now.
insane.
So I was in industry. When I first had our son, I was working in industry, and industry is not forgiving for flexible, work schedules. And, even in a manager position, you've got to be there at shift change. And, I would always be questioned if I had to leave early for a doctor's appointment or, come in late because of a doctor's appointment for them. And gosh, at that age, it's like they're having a doctor's appointment literally every month, but then if they get sick, even more so. And I just didn't feel like I had the flexibility to be the mom that I wanted to be, in industry. And that was what brought me to consulting. That's what brought me to HRP, was looking for a bit of that flexibility. And, but there was a trade-off, right? Like industry, you kind of had a set schedule. In consulting, we were doing a lot of traveling when I first started with HRP. We were in the heart of the college audit program. So I traveled quite a bit, and that was really tough initially to get used to it. Looking back on it, my husband and I was telling my husband we were doing this podcast, and so we were reminiscing the other night as well. And, my having to travel for work did so much to make my husband and son closer. Particularly at that age where a child is going to naturally gravitate to a mother. The fact that I had to travel and it was just my husband and my son, it really allowed them to form a bond, that, was the foundation of the relationship that they have today. But then also I remember like how much it broke my heart the very first time, like he fell and got hurt and he went to my husband instead of to me.
That's gut-wrenching.
And then, so that time period, it's almost a blur to tell you the truth. But it was also looking back on it, it was so much easier to travel when he was young.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
As he started to get older. And, what we used to do as he started to get older, more like, Alicia, your kid's age, if I ever had to travel for work, Frank, our son, he's always been just a no-nonsense kid. Tell him like it is. Don't sugarcoat anything. If you were to sugarcoat or try to spin, he'd call your bluff on it. Mm-hmm. But, like, if you just shot straight with him, he got it. And so if ever I had to travel, we're like, I'm leaving on this day, I'm getting back on this day. And, when he was young and it was harder for him to comprehend, we put gift bags on top of the refrigerator. And so there was a gift bag for every night I was not there. And like the gift bag was like a little toy dinosaur, a little Matchbox car, a little piece of candy. Like each bag just had something a little tiny in it. But he knew when there was no more gift bags on the top of the refrigerator, I was coming home.
That's so
and
that's really
that was a really good visual tool for him. That helped him. And then, as he got older, we would FaceTime. I remember we were going through a phase where we were reading the Harry Potter books. And so each night from the hotel, I'd FaceTime him and we'd read our story, still. And then as he started to get older, Jane, like what you were saying, you really want to be there for the activities. Yeah. And also as you get older, it's so neat just to see the human being that your children start to become and the conversations that you can have that as he got older, we would be able to have the conversation about, all right, hey, I got to go to this client at some point in time. I have flexibility. You tell me, when do you want me to go? You know, is there something coming up you don't want me to miss? And what was funny is the things that I thought he would want me there for, it wasn't as important to him as I thought it would be. But then something that I didn't think was as important to him was more important. So, you know, to engage him in those decision-making, you know, really helped.
That's a really good tip.
Now,
too.
all of this would not have been possible if I didn't have, you know, the support network that I have as well. So, you know, the question, have you figured out the work-life balance? You can't figure out the work-life balance if you don't have a good community. You know, if you don't have a good spouse, you know, a good family network, a good friend network. My mother-in-law moved to Greenville right shy of Frank's second birthday. And that was a godsend to have her literally less than a mile away from our house was excellent. And then, of course, that allowed our son to have that great relationship, you know, with my mother-in-law as well. And my parents, they were 3 hours away, but if I needed them to come up, I'd be like, hey, Dad, I've got this work, you know, schedule trip, and Russell's got this going on. Can you come up? And he's like, yeah, sure. So my dad would come up and, you know, and help out. And then my husband has never had a job that's required him to travel. So my husband was always the one that you could reliably know was going to be in town. And so just really, you can't find the balance without the support. And I'm not saying that I ever did find the balance, but if there was a balance to be had, the balance was only because of the support of the family and friends network that I had. And maybe now that, you know, my son's about to move out in 2 months, I can say maybe now I've found the work-life balance.
Jackie, what are you going to do with your time off when he moves out?
Your empty nest.
I think I would be lying if I've said I found the work-life balance, because it's now I feel a little unbalanced, you know?
Right.
Now it's unbalanced the other way.
Well,
Yeah,
mom
I mean,
becomes your
too much.
identity
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah.
It really does.
And we only have the one son. We only have the one child. So we were only blessed with one child. So, like, whew, guys, I don't know what I'm going to do.
I don't know what you're
Everybody's
going
like,
to do
you
either,
know,
Jackie.
Yeah, graduation, they're like, how you doing? I'm like, gosh, have you never gone to a high school graduation? Like, they are the most boring and, like, non-functional events. I'm like, graduation, I was fine. In 2 months, when I drop them off in Blacksburg, Virginia,
that's gonna hurt.
that's gonna be a different story. Y'all might need to check on me.
Yeah,
We'll have to do a part 2.
It's definitely giving me having kids, and the thought of them going off to university and listening to you, Jackie, is giving me a whole other perspective on when I moved from Saskatchewan to Connecticut.
Yeah.
And I bought my mom's car because it was, you know, the one we knew, the used car that we knew. And my sister came with me, and we packed that Chevy Cavalier with whatever I could fit into it. And she and I drove across the country. And one of the last things my mom said to me was, what did she say? She's like, don't marry an American. Not that she has anything against Americans, but it was that whole idea of, if I marry an American, that means I'm going to be, I'm going to be putting roots down. I'm going to have kids down there. So, you know, that is one thing I do miss and didn't have, was that, like, my parents were, like, Saskatoon is 6 hours of airtime flying from Connecticut.
Yeah, it is. It's
plus
not
add on the
easy.
airport time and the you know, the transfers in between. There's no direct flight and whatnot. So, you know, my parents used to try to come down every year. We try to get up there.
Yeah.
COVID threw a whole wrench into that, because there's nothing like being told you can't leave the country.
Oh, I know, right?
I know.
But you know, so that's her. She always comes down usually in October, or for Thanksgiving. She's been coming down the last few years since my dad died. I made her come down. She just comes down for 2 weeks and gets all her grandkid time in.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
and it's nice when
You're
she's here,
always a
because I
mom.
finally have somebody else.
You're always a mom.
Right.
I know you're
no,
talking
that
about your
community is
mom,
everything.
which, I mean, it's just
Yeah,
like,
pool your resources.
you're always a mom. It doesn't matter how old they are.
Yep.
You know,
That's right.
you're always a mom. And, you know, God, you know, Deanna, you're talking about, like, crawling and what are they going to get into? And we're like, at, you know, my son's life stage is more like, make smart decisions.
Yeah.
I say that today.
I say that to my son and his friends, the older one, when they're all going out.
Yeah.
I always like, have fun, make good choices.
Yes.
The thing is, me and my husband talk about that all the time. We're not talking about what he's doing now. We're like, what are we going to like explain to him when he's 16, when he's 18? How are we going to handle that? So like, we're already planning for that stage.
Yeah.
It's really weird that you have
You
those
think it all
conversations
the
when they're
way
not
through.
even walking yet.
Because you're worried about that. I mean,
Yeah,
I
especially now, like in
And
this
you
day
still
and
won't
age.
be ready because when it happens, you're going to draw a blank.
Yeah.
You're going to be right back where something.
I'm hoping I'll have
You're gonna
the
think about
openness to be like,
You will.
I
Or
try to.
Deanna will
think
pull out
I
a
will.
notebook and be like, hang on a second.
Hold
I'm
on.
prepared for this.
I've been writing notes.
One thing I would say, though, is when they're telling you those boring-ass stories about Pokemon or whatever thing they're telling
Don't
you.
talk to me about Pokemon.
And video games that they've told you 100 times. Listen.
Yeah.
Because they know you.
I can't wait for that.
But it's hard.
But I
It's
get what
rough.
you mean.
No, it's
I get
rough.
what you mean. But
No, because
I,
if they know you're going to listen to those stories, which are so important to them as kids, because they don't have that life experience. So when they get older, they're gonna want to come talk to you about the other.
But they always bring them
The
up at the
other-
worst times.
This is true.
The other
Like
thing
bedtime.
the other thing that I learned too is every time they walk in a room, like
look at them.
Yeah,
get excited.
acknowledge them. Yep.
every time they walk in a room. So
Don't be doing this.
right.
No, exactly.
But I heard about this because of how, when they become teenagers, they don't really want to talk to their parents, or they want to just be in their room. They want to do their own thing. And so if you like create this, this environment that's super communicative and everyone's talking and everyone's, so how was your day? Or they also said, ask them what they have for lunch. Instead of like, how was your day?
No,
Like,
you
what
gotta
did you
ask
eat for
pointed
lunch?
questions.
Yes.
Just to try to bring in that conversation
trust me,
as they're
Not just
little.
good.
Because trust me,
Yeah. Not
when
just
they
how
get
was
to
school.
those teenagers,
like,
pre-teenagers,
specifics.
they will find a way to answer those questions with one word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they
Not
will.
give you,
Teenagers.
especially with boys.
Those are teenagers.
But building the bond, like Jackie said,
Yeah.
that, there's a lot that in your stage, Deanna, and even ours too, Sam, like this age, it's critical years of building that bond and communicating. It's huge.
Yeah.
One of the things I wanted to say
I know
with
Jackie's
Jackie when you were
trying
talking about asking what was more important for him, I did the exact same thing with Maslin when she was 5. I said to her, when she started kindergarten, I turned to her, she was 4 actually, and I said to her, do you want mommy there every morning at drop-off on the bus? Or would you rather me get you off the bus every day? Because I knew where I was going to be working. I knew I had the flexibility, but I wasn't going to cut into both ends of my workday.
Yeah.
And I thought she would want me to get her off the bus every day. I was expecting to come to work at HRP and leave at 3:00 every day to get her off the bus. And she wants me there every morning. So regardless of whether she's at my house or her father's, I am at that bus stop every morning. And I wait. And even if they're running late and she misses the bus, she gets out of that car, gives me my hug, and then she gets in the car. And that was what was important to her at 4 years old. And to this day, it hasn't changed. And, every year we ask the same question. And I will adapt my schedule to her because that's what's important to her.
Yeah.
Is either seeing you in the morning or at night or whatever it is.
Whatever it is she
Yeah,
wants.
That's it. And, it's her choice. And she feels so good about being able to make that decision because she knows that I'm not, that was her decision and I'm going to honor it every single day. And it works out really well. She's cute.
We've all mentioned mom guilt. I mean, I got almost 18 years of mom guilt.
Oh,
It just
15.
I mean, even I probably had mom guilt when I was still pregnant because
Yeah, you do.
like, I couldn't find a daycare situation and I was freaking out. Apparently, I had to get on the daycare list before I was even married.
Yep.
Like, 'cause they were 2-year waiting
Yeah, we
list.
found that out too.
Yeah, and who would have thought? But anyway, finding a wonderful in-home daycare, blah blah blah, all of that. But like with the mom guilt, it took me a long time, and I'm not going to say I ever mastered it, but it took me a long time to realize that I had to take care of myself. At first, I would be so guilty. I feel so guilty if I went out with my friends for some girl time, when I had just been on a work trip and I'd already been away from my husband and my son, and then I go out with friends, but I needed that, I needed that girl time for me to be a good mom, and we're not even talking about being like a spouse, like for me to be a good spouse, for me to be a good mom, like I had to be good to myself, and it took me many years to get comfortable with being good for myself.
Yeah, I struggle with the fact that I have always been like, I always put myself at the top as well. And I think it has a lot to do with the fact that I started my career so young. I think that really kind of gave me that confidence and you know, like I just kind of did things later in life. So like I know what's important for me, and I want to teach my kids the same thing.
Yes.
Like I want them to know like you're important, meaning you're not going to let no one treat you bad. You know, you're going to always do your best. You're going to always try. If you fail, failure's good. Like all those kinds of things is because I've seen success in that, you know? So, but I do struggle with the judgment of that, you know, because there is judgment.
There is.
You know, of, so, you know, you going on another trip? Yeah. I'm going on another trip. Yeah. But I need that trip. Yeah. I need that rejuvenation. So I take
Alicia,
solo
I'm
trips
curious,
once a year.
Did you get that judgment from other women or from inside your family?
Inside my family. Inside my family, not from other women. No, other women are just like,
see, mine was the other way around.
Exactly. I'm looking up to you.
No, it's from family for sure.
Yeah, so I mean, my family was always supportive, but like I would get those. It'd be other moms, you know, of like friends, like, oh, you're always traveling, and there was always kind of like those side eyes from other moms, which I think is what fed the mom guilt for me.
For sure.
I mean,
I
think you're always going to get that. I think everyone's going to have their own opinion about how you should do things, and I think you should just do what you want to do and what is going to help you take care of yourself, your kid, and your own mental health.
I found I got the most judgment though from as far as women who are childless. And I'm like, come back and talk to me when you've had kids. I was like, I was very opinionated before I had kids too. But I usually, when I would make a comment to my coworkers or friends who had kids, I'm like, take this with a grain of salt because I don't have kids and I don't actually know, but this is my opinion. I was like, but, you know, I would get that. I saw that coming back at me.
I think the other part of this balance, work-life balance or juggling, whatever we're calling it, is that, and Jackie mentioned it too, you know, your significant other, you know, like there's also time for them, and we tend to put them very last. Like they're just last most of the time. And I saw, I was listening to a podcast of a couple, and that's exactly what he said. Him and his wife have a podcast, and that's exactly what he said. And he said that to her, like, you know, I'm last, aren't I? She goes, you are. My bad. But yes. And so, but that allowed them to start the conversation about, okay, well, how can we both be, you know, how can I be at the top of that? Like, how can I be top 3, you know? And that part's been a struggle too, because I have a really good, you know, significant other. Like my husband is an excellent father. He's an excellent spouse. And he has needs too, and he wants to do things. But since we're the way we are, you know, we're doing everything a lot of the time. We're you know, we're always thinking. We could be doing one thing, but we're thinking about the 6 things we have to do after we're doing this one thing. So a lot of times our brains are really full. And a lot of times if we make a mistake, other people could take it very personally, where it's like, I didn't even know I did that. I wasn't even, that was not intentional. But you know, it's that's a big part. And I remember when I got engaged, I was working at the company before here, and I remember walking into work, and I showed my boss my engagement ring, and she was like, "Oh, congratulations!" She was like, "I have one thing to tell you," and I'm like, "Okay," and she goes, never forget your husband. Now, she said that because her kids were going to college. Like they had just left. And now it was just them two in their big old house looking at each other, and they didn't know each other.
I was going to say,
So that's what she told me.
After all that time.
And I'll never forget she said that, because I'll never forget it because it's a good point, but also she was hurt. Like you saw it in her face. Like she knew that her marriage wasn't good at that point, because for the whole 18 years it was about them. It was about them and doing this and we all know as parents, like that grind is fast.
It is.
Weeks go by, the days go by fast.
You blink and like they say it, but you don't really understand it to experience it. Like it just your mind is so full so much of the time you don't recognize what's happening around you. You lose yourself sometimes, and you turn around and all of a sudden it's been months and that's it. You haven't spoken to people that you were close with. I mean, I luck out because my family, they're like me. They're all hyperactive and they're used to it, but they're close and they are always there for Maslin and I'm always there for them, and it's a struggle. But if they weren't here and I'd go months without speaking to my parents. And I wouldn't notice. And with me, it's just me and Maslin, and then we co-parent. So me and her father, and I think I'm lucky because I get to co-parent. So all I need to worry about, I always told myself, is control the controllables. And I remind it's something I say it to myself every morning. Control the controllables, and then outside of that, I'm free. I can feel what I want. I can think about what I want. I can do what I need to do and get through the day as long as I'm controlling the controllables. And that, I mean, you guys know me. I control everything. When it's on my plate, I'm controlling it. And with her father, we don't talk. We don't talk unless we have to. And I can't worry about what's going on in his life and what he needs to work around. So I think we've lucked out. Like when he needs something, I listen because it's not all the time. And he'll come to me and say, I need this. And I've always said to myself, if I give him that, if I don't fight, if we don't, try to argue about it, and we take her first and say, okay, how is she going to get the best quality time with her father? And say, okay, you can't do that. So I will always adapt, always adapt. And I've always said to him, I will always say yes. I have a job where it's a possibility. I can do it. I can work around it. So no matter what, I will always say yes as long as we keep that balance. And it's a whole nother level of balancing, keeping 50-50 so that she doesn't miss out on time with her father, because I don't want her to think anything bad. We just didn't work out. We don't. There's no negativity there.
Right.
And it's like a whole nother level of balance.
And to be able to have a healthy co-parenting relationship situation is amazing.
And he travels for work, so he actually works in wastewater. So he's on the other end of the spectrum, and he works for pump companies.
Hire him.
Just kidding.
Just kidding.
He's an engineer. Actually, he and I met at work. We did meet working for the same company. But yeah, he travels a lot. He's the engineer at his company, and he is constantly going around. And I will not. So it's not only balancing my work and life with her. It's also balancing his in with ours and integrating it so that there's still a balance. And it's funny. Last week was the first time she has started calling the other parent at night, and it's never been something we never said no. We never made it weird. It just didn't come up before, and now she's reaching a point where she's realizing like, oh, I can just call and talk. So she calls him when she's home at night to read him her bedtime story.
That's perfect.
And she'll call me at night, and I'm gonna be honest. My heart is like so full this past week because she calls me, and I'm sitting there at night by myself, exhausted from work because I've worked late because I don't have her, so now I can, so I have to, and because that's how it works. It's not about me; it's about balancing the life.
Sometimes we choose to, though.
That's it, and I
stay late if I can knock a few more things out. I'd be like, you good?
That's it.
You good? All
it's
right,
like,
we good. And I'm here to 8.
And I tell myself, if I get it done tonight, I can come in tomorrow and I'm not behind.
Exactly.
And so I'll do it. And last night she called me and I wasn't expecting it. I didn't get like a warning text or anything. And she called me and she goes, oh, Daddy just went downstairs. I just got out of the bath. I just wanted to call and say goodnight. And she started telling me all about her day at camp. And I hung up that phone and I was laughing. And I hung up the phone and I called my mom and she's like, why are you calling me this late? And I said, because I'm learning from my kid. I was like, I just wanted to let you know I'm really thankful for everything that you've been doing, for being there and everything. And I said, I'm doing something right. I don't need you to tell me. I just realized it because she called and I didn't have to ask. She wanted to communicate with me. So like you were saying earlier, that's a little tick for me.
Yeah.
Like I don't know what I did right, but I did something.
Yeah.
And I'm learning, I'm liking this age, you know?
Sam, your daughter's at the age where a call is like sweet and kind.
Yeah.
I'm
It's
at
not
the
a,
age
"Can
where
I have
like
money?"
he calls, I'm like, what's wrong? What's wrong? Because
That's it,
My
right?
he
kids
only
are-
calls if something's wrong. Normally
Yeah,
it's a text.
I'm dreading
Oh,
those
I know,
days.
right?
Or they need money.
Yeah.
They need money.
I love those YouTube reels or whatever TikTok reels where like like the dad texts like, I'm in the hospital, I fell, I broke my leg or whatever, and the kid's like, okay, well, can you pick up Chick-fil-A when you come home? And I'm like, that is such a teenager. It's so messed up.
I
so
don't want to get
funny.
to that point. Can we freeze our kids?
Kids
We're
are
gonna freeze
funny.
them.
They are funny.
They're
Well, I still
cute.
get, the first time I had COVID, I very much locked myself in our office,
Oh,
whatnot,
yeah.
and I would still get knocks on the door from my kids. Can you make me such? I'm like, your father is in the kitchen. Like, I know this because I can hear him. Go ask him.
Not available. Not available.
Our rule at our
Honestly.
house is, I said it to her when she was a baby, and she took it to heart because she used to get sick a lot from daycare and everything, and everybody else would put on masks and everything, and they're hugging, and I said, I'm not doing it. Forget it. And I'd hold her, and she looked up at me. I think she was like 2 years old. She said, "Mommy, you need a mask." And I said, No. I'm your mom. You know what that means? She goes, "What?" I said, "You get sick, I get sick, and that's fine." And so, but now I have to fight with her because if I get sick, I don't want her getting sick. And she will come over and she will sit on the bed with me and hug me. And she goes, "It's okay. You and I have a special thing where if you get sick, I get sick. So it's okay." And I'm like,
You're
what
like,
have
"No,
I
it's not."
done? No, you go put a mask on.
I was like completely unrelated to this conversation, kind of, but related to that. I've already noticed that like when he's been getting sick, I haven't been catching his thing, even though he's coughing all over me.
You
He's
really-
You
spitting.
don't get
I'm like,
everything.
Okay, this
How is that
this
possible?
is
You
Lisa.
got a good immune system.
Lisa,
Oh my gosh.
Lisa and I have had this conversation. It's I've heard it said before. It is. I always thought it was just a saying. Mothers do not have time to get sick.
You're right. You're so,
So-
right.
If they're sick, keep working hard at life, at
Yeah, I
everything.
know,
Because the
until it
minute
hits
you
ya.
sit down and stop, that's when it's going to get you.
It was crazy.
You don't have time to notice you're sick.
Yeah, I was
You
like
don't.
sick for
You push
3
right
months,
through
and
it.
then all of a sudden it just
Yeah.
stopped, and
I
he
hate
kept
when
being
the kids
sick.
are sick. I get
I
I get
know.
like a knot in my stomach that it just and it's not. I don't even have to be thinking about them being
No.
sick. It just sits there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's like, okay, well now I gotta take them to the doctor, and now when you had kids for at least 3 years, you know the process. You know all the doctors. You know all the urgent cares. You got all the speed dials. You know everything. So you know like what's gonna happen. Like,
Yes.
you know what day you're gonna have to take them to urgent care if it gets to this
Yep.
point. You know what you're gonna have to buy. You know she's gonna be coughing all night, and he's then gonna get sick. So like I know that when one person's sick in my house, that's actually a month of people sick in
Yes.
my house.
Yeah.
So it's
Yes.
and that's why I think I get that. It's probably anxiety is what
is.
that
Yeah,
is.
it's definitely
It is.
anxiety. I was about to
Yep,
say that
it's
sounds like a
anxiety.
classic case of anxiety.
Yeah.
Because
You know,
I kind of know what it is.
I never mastered the sick kid thing. I mean, I would take them to the doctor or urgent care when it was nothing. And when it was something significant, I'd be like, "Oh yeah, you're fine."
Yes,
Like,
exactly.
and then he would like end up, in the emergency room.
Yes.
I'm like,
Yeah.
shit, sorry.
My
And
kids
then it's the mom guilt
Yeah.
again.
My
It's
kids,
just
when they were
just
younger,
making it worse.
they both suffered from ear infections a lot, but they didn't show it.
Oh,
I
Yeah.
can't tell you how many times
Maslin
we'd
is
show up for the
asymptomatic.
we'd
with
show up for the
everything.
annual physical,
Yep.
and they'd be like, "Sorry, we can't do it because they have a raging ear infection." They're like, "That doesn't hurt."
No, and there's no
I'm like, I swear to God, I'm
fever.
paying attention to
Nothing.
them. They did not
Did they
complain.
get
There's
fevers,
no
though?
fever. No.
No.
Oh wow.
Maslin's the same. She is asymptomatic in 99% of cases. I never know when she's sick.
It's
So when she comes to me and she's not feeling well,
You're like,
But a
I'm like,
lot of
what
the
are
stuff
you
with ear
dying? Like, what
infection
is happening?
You can get antibiotics for ear infection, right?
Yeah.
My kids
Yeah.
only had like one each. They didn't get
Yeah.
ear
Oh, we
infections,
got a
so I
lot.
don't know the.
My youngest had his
it's
adenoids
antibiotics.
taken out because of
Yeah.
the number of ear infections. I don't know why they didn't take
Yeah.
his tonsils. They both have huge tonsils. But
Yeah.
my oldest,
No.
he's got like this sixth sense. He's had strep throat like 3 times.
He's good.
It's
He
insane.
knows.
He's like the first time he was like,
Yeah.
You
he's
know
like,
when you
Mom,
have
I think I have
strep
strep.
throat.
I'm like,
Yeah.
quit making excuses. Get ready and go to
No,
school.
you know when you
Yeah.
have it.
But he was like, it didn't even come up positive on the test.
Oh.
No, yeah, he's
Like-
that good.
But,
The
like,
first day,
most-
and then the next
most
day.
sicknesses,
I
they
always,
don't
I
give
would
you
get it
stuff
every year,
anyway.
and I was like, Mom, it's time.
That's
Go
good.
get
he knows.
swabbed.
But I always
Yeah.
felt, I'm like, but because he'd been missing so much school and thought of it, because he suffers from migraines and headaches. It's a family trait. He's lucky enough to be the next generation to get him. So I can usually tell by the look in his eyes whether or not his head's hurting or not. But sometimes you're just like, I'm like, Aaron. And I've always taught my kids, I was like, if you need a mental health day, I will let you call
Yes.
out. I will call you out from school because
We all need one.
we all know.
Yes.
I was like, I as an adult do that. I'm not
Yep.
teaching you anything that you're not going to do as an adult anyway.
Yeah.
But now that we're in high school, it's a lot different because they're tracking those absences a lot.
Yeah,
I'm worried
they
about it.
are. They
And I've
are.
had letters home.
Yeah,
from
but I don't know how it is up there, but down here it's like you just have to have a note. Yeah, I mean,
we have to have a note.
My
But once you
son-
have 10, they
Yeah.
start sending you the letters that threaten CPS
So
to come
our
after you for
son-
truancy.
Wow.
It's
I've
insane.
never-
Oh yeah, truancy. That's
10?
right.
yeah,
Yeah.
we have.
Crazy.
Well, that's just when they sent the letters home. I called the school after the first one, and they were like, "Oh, that's just a form letter. Doesn't mean anything." I'm like, "Then don't friggin' send it."
That's terrible. You're giving me anxiety, and I'm trying to strike a work-life
But because
balance.
of that, but so I'm like, the last time he had strep throat, I was like, if you're gonna miss school, we have to go get a doctor's note because he was already up there with absences.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right,
See,
let's
that's
go
what
get.
I'm- yeah, I'm
and
not
I'm
looking
like
forward to
trying to
doctor's
teach him a
notes.
lesson. You're gonna be sick. We're going to the doctor.
You have
And they're
to.
like, yep, strep throat. Here's your antibiotics.
Yeah,
I'm like,
for the note, if nothing else.
yeah, exactly. We have to go for the note.
I always go.
I can tell
and
you
forget
now,
the note.
now that we've gone through the awful and painful experience of applying for colleges, I don't wish it on any of y'all. Call me when you go through it. I only have one
gosh.
kid.
I
I only have
definitely
one
will do.
kid, so I can't like pass this knowledge on to a second kid, but I can like pass. Yeah, when you
Okay,
go through
we'll
the college the college application experience, it's awful.
got a long way to go.
And let me tell you, it doesn't matter what happened in elementary school, middle school. Period.
Of course not.
Yeah, it doesn't
That's
matter.
At all.
It's
At
just
all.
high school.
It does not
At
matter.
all. And even in high school, it's only the final transcripts. It's only the grades.
Yep.
The final
school-
And ours was
transcript
done at
doesn't
the end of
say
junior
anything
year.
about attendance.
Our
You don't even need to
school
wait
system,
till
they
senior year,
track
right?
Yeah,
it.
senior year like doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
Right, that's
Nine,
true.
Right,
grades
I
free.
applied in
12,
junior
It shows
year.
up on all
Yeah.
the report
Yep.
cards.
They didn't
But
see
not
my
the
senior year one.
absences or anything like that. So if your
No.
kid can balance the mental health days and the sick days and the
Yeah.
grades, the days away from school, it really doesn't matter.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to having to fill out all those forms or figure out how we're going to pay for university. I'm all for a gap year too, though. I think, especially with how expensive post-secondary education is these days, I
Yeah.
kind of want them to go and get a job and
I have the strangest
figure out for sure what you want to
child.
do.
I will never. I don't. It's like she's not. She's an alien. I don't know. When she was 3, she came home from daycare and told me she was gonna be a doctor or a teacher, but I didn't have to worry. She's 3 years
Those
old.
are two completely
Yeah.
different.
She wasn't real. She knows she's too early to decide. She's cool. But I don't have to worry about college because she's going to be a hairdresser to put herself through school. She was 3.
That's why.
And
I
I'm
mean,
like,
hold
what
her
kind
to
of
it.
daycare is this?
Hold
You
her
know
to
she
it.
and
hasn't
she could
changed.
start as
It was the
whatever
weirdest.
age too.
That was the best daycare
Let her
in the
cut
world.
your hair.
It's
Let her start
Well,
doing some
when-
stuff. Get
when
those,
she was
like,
4,
those little,
that was
you
a
know,
whole
those
other story.
mannequins that
I
you
found
put
the hair on the
table
floor of
with
the
hair.
bedroom.
Oh, yeah,
Get her
yeah.
going. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great.
I was like,
School,
what?
college is so expensive.
They're so
like,
crazy.
I
No.
remember before I had kids, I used to be like, they just gonna get loans like I did, like
Yeah.
whatever. But now, like,
I'm
no.
still paying my loans.
Right. So I don't have any loans because
Yep.
I did it the right way. My husband has loans because he did it the way that he thought society, the
Yes,
way
the
society
ways I
told,
told
him
you
to
to
do
do
it.
it.
The way
Yep.
society tells us all to do it.
What was the right
So-
way to do it?
Yeah, please tell me because
Because I
The
still
right,
have
the
loans.
right way to do it is you start working young and
Yeah.
then you start working for a
And pay up
company
as much
that
you
paid
can,
for
yeah.
you to go to school.
That's the key
All
right
right,
there.
all
so
right.
that's how you do it.
See,
That's
I
too
worked
late for
young,
me.
but it wasn't for a company that paid.
But
So-
I'm
Or you
hoping
can
that
always
college won't be a thing by the
Jackie?
time.
Oh, it's
person's
just, I
in.
mean, this is gonna make me sound so old, but like when I was going through school, like even my friends that had to get student loans for the entire kit and caboodle,
Yeah.
it was not a soul crushing amount of debt.
Oh yeah.
And like they were able to graduate from college. They were able to get a job. They were able to still do things like buy a car if they needed a car, get an apartment, buy a house if they were able to buy a house. But like thankfully we have been putting aside money for school. I tell you, it doesn't matter how much you put aside; it's not enough.
It's not going to be enough.
Never.
If somebody was to get student loans for the entire kit and caboodle, guys, that's like a really nice house nowadays.
Yeah.
I mean, it is. Yeah. It's insane. So, Jane, what you're saying about a gap year, I get 100%. I would say probably half of my son's friends, they just don't know yet what they want to do, and honestly, that's fine. You're 18. You know, you don't have to know what you want to do with the rest of your life at the age of 18. You know, and so they don't know. They don't know, so they're going to go to the community college for a couple of years.
Exactly.
And
everybody
really
should
the
work
right
in
way.
where
That's
we
the
are.
right way.
Realize how much hell it is.
So
agree.
community college is free for us down here. So they're going to school for free, community college. So getting some courses that are going to be value added at some point in time until they figure things out. You also get a job, and you know, our son, he's just in a very different space. He knows exactly what he wants to do. You know, and so we are willing to make the investment in him, you know, because he knows exactly
and there's
what he wants to
also
do.
like trade, you know,
I
and
bet
you
on
guys
him
know,
any day.
That's what I was going to say. Go to a trade school.
They're not cheap either.
No one's
like,
doing.
That's why I was saying.
But like, it's not
post-secondary,
even.
but-
It's so like there's such a need in skilled labor right now because nobody's going. And I think the issue is that in I don't know whatever generation it was. I don't know if it was maybe 70s to 90s, maybe. They were pushing college. You have to go to college. You have to go to college. And so now we have this huge gap. Like you drive by a construction job and the man who is driving the excavator is like 69 years old.
If you don't go to college, then you're almost looked at as a failure.
Right. And that was the whole mindset. That was, again, that's what society was telling us back in that time. So I think that's why there is this need and there's gap. Because now, you know, these people want to retire and they are retiring. And now there's no one to drive these trucks. There's no one to do these things. So there's this huge push in trade. And we are always... In our house, we always talk about the different types of things that the kids could do. Investing, you know, running businesses, you know, all kinds of things, especially now and today. Like you can run a business like so easily, you know, like there's so many things you can do. There's so much access. And we always talk about like, okay, what is it gonna be like for them? Like all the options they have. Yeah. Because, you know, if you want to be a doctor, because it's going to be, what do you want to be? Like right now, Sloan wants to be a doctor. Landon wants to be a football player. And like Landon really, really wants to be a football player. And I get it, buddy. I get it.
But the percentages
aren't there.
I get it. Right. Now, he's a very aggressive football player for a 9-year-old. Like he's what people want.
He's been doing the youth.
He's what people want. So he could, if he keeps up, he could. But you retire at 32. So you need to do something else.
Yeah, you need
so you're going to do something else. You're going to finish college, like you're going to do all those things if you go to college, whatever. I was like, you need to figure out something else. And so like when we're talking about like work-life balance and all that stuff, again, it's like all of these things are in our minds. Like you were even saying, your baby is 9 months old and you're already thinking about what he's doing at 16. I found out I was having a girl and I couldn't sleep that night because I love you, Sloan Mommy. I do. I love you so much. But I was, you know, I was nervous. I was nervous about a 14-year-old girl.
I did the exact
what is that
same
be like?
thing. I love my math.
So we always think ahead, you know, we always think ahead. I feel like I used to think it was only me. No. But I always am thinking 3 days ahead. And that's another part of why we don't have time to do anything because we're always thinking too far ahead.
We're not
it's not
so
just
occupied.
our work-life balance. We're balancing their work life.
Yes.
And they're not, they're
They
children.
don't understand.
We're balancing everyone's
We're
work
balancing,
life.
in some cases, our husband's work. work-life balance.
Everything.
Yeah.
Everyone in the
That too,
house.
Everything.
And you know what? Like in my
Yeah.
house, like Lance is the type of guy who's like, you don't gotta do nothing for me. I'm good. You don't gotta cook for me. You don't gotta wash my clothes. You don't gotta do nothing for me. I'm straight.
Yeah.
I love you. Good night. Like he's that kind of guy, and I'm very blessed to have that kind of guy. But it doesn't matter. I'm gonna do everything I want to do, and if I want to do this or do that, I'm gonna do it. And so we're two individuals raising this family, and we have two different personalities, right?
Yep.
So regardless of him saying, you're good, relax, I'm not gonna relax. So we have to take it upon ourselves to give us that grace when we wake up in the morning, like do something to just try to level us out. Because the day is coming, regardless.
Yep.
The kids are going to get sick. Something's going to happen. Someone's going to call someone. Someone's going to leave work, whatever it is. But we got to take that moment in the morning and just be like, I'm a good mom.
Yes.
I
But
did
you know
good.
what? No matter how much we always stress about all of those, like, because we're all type A personalities, right? And we're always thinking ahead, all that type of stuff. But it's amazing the amount of grace that is shed. You know, when you do have to cancel a visit or a call because the kid is sick, nobody has ever gotten mad at me for that. Nobody has ever been ugly about that. Everybody's like, oh, no, I get it. No worries. Like, but we still fret so much about it, right? We still worry about letting people down.
Yeah.
But everybody has always exuded grace in those situations. I don't know why we continue to stress about it.
Yeah, and I think it kind of just like loops it all back together that I think we're very privileged to work at a company that gives us so much flexibility in our day-to-day lives.
Like even just the simple part of having access to work from home.
I would
Yeah, it really
absolutely
is.
not
that alone,
be
even
able.
if you had to like punch a clock while you're at home, the fact that you can be at home while you're doing it.
I wouldn't be able to be working right
Means
now.
Right. No.
There would be no way. But
Right.
if I'm able to, he sleeps for an hour, I work for an hour. If he sleeps for 2 hours, if it's a half an hour, I may not get very much done, but at least I tried.
At least you can answer some emails.
I can answer some emails.
Yeah.
I can call Matt and talk to him for
find
half
out what's
an
going
hour.
on. Yeah.
I can never get off the phone with him. So I think we are all very privileged
We are
that we
very
work here because a
privileged.
lot of companies do not
great
allow that
company.
A lot
still,
of
and they're
companies
all
don't.
reverting back, which
Yeah.
I understand,
I
but to a
Yeah.
point.
Lately, I mean, you guys know how much I do with the PTO at our school, and the year was ending and things got crazy because one of the PTO moms is actually a therapist, and she couldn't help out. She works from home, but she couldn't help out because she had so many mothers coming to her, and I'm not even joking. Like there were so many PTO moms coming to her to sit with her and talk with her because they were so stressed out because their jobs are forcing them back into
go
the
back to
office.
work, yeah.
And you know,
Like 5 days a week. Too,
yeah, like full time,
Yeah.
40 hours in the
been
office
hearing about
or
this.
else. Like, we'll replace you kind of deal.
Mm-hmm.
And there's so many of them. And, you know, I was able to pick up, I mean, I didn't want to, but you know what I mean? I'm going to help out. So I picked up a lot of extra volunteer time at the end of the year that I didn't have. I mean, I didn't have it in me, and I still did it.
And that's a rough time of year, May.
Oh, goodness. It was
It's
bad.
like
It was
the
like the
worst
last
time
2
of
weeks
year
of
for
school. And everything was crazy. And I had to pick up a lot of things last minute that I wasn't even in charge of because they didn't know. And they were just being forced back in. And I mean, I've heard so many things lately about like the summers. Like, what are they going to do with their kids? Like, I luck
my
out.
gosh.
Madison goes to camp. She's camp full time. But if we didn't have that, oh my goodness. And I had to
That's
work
how
from
I
home
feel
from
about
the
this
office.
summer. This was the first summer
bad.
that both kids would be home because Sloan was still in preschool last year.
Yeah.
And so she started kindergarten this year. She just finished. So they're both home. And with camp, like, you know, camp is you got to buy every week. Some of the weeks fill up. So it's like some weeks they're in camp, some weeks they're not.
Oh.
And I'm like, what are they going to do?
Like, it's,
Like,
what are you
going to
doing?
sit home? I mean, I know what they would do.
Yes.
You know,
I
they're
know
going
what
to
mine are doing.
eat popcorn all day.
Sit in front of the
You know,
TV.
sit in front of the
Mine are sitting on the computer,
play all the
on their
games.
knees, not cleaning my
I
kitchen.
could not.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah, making the house a mess. You know, I couldn't. I literally, again, anxiety.
Yep,
Right here.
exactly.
Anxiety right there.
There.
I could not think, as I would think about it, I'm like, I can't let them do that.
No.
Yeah.
So, you know, I had to adjust my schedule for the summer to at least work from home when they're home to make sure that, okay, everyone out, go outside, let's ride a bike, you know,
There you go.
Yeah.
take the breaks and stuff to get
And I
them
used to
outside.
do that when I was part-time. I could do that. I would work from home.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, even when I worked at my last job,
It's even rough.
because it was doing the same stormwater inspections, and so we did camps. Last year was the first summer that neither kid went to camp at all. even for a few weeks.
Yeah.
Because Aaron had aged out into wanting, he had to be
there is
the,
like an age out point.
he would have,
Yes.
he
I'm
would
not
have
looking forward to that
he still
either.
would have had to pay for it, but he would have been a counselor in training.
Yeah.
He's just not the type of personality to do
That's-
that, so he didn't want to do it. So, okay, well, once he wasn't going, then obviously Jonathan didn't want, they didn't even go to the same camp. He was like, well, if Aaron gets to stay home, I'm going to stay home. And
Can I just make a point on that? Because I just found that out. So I have a friend who has a 14-year-old. And I was asking her, you know, are the boys, and she also has a 10-year-old. Yeah. And I was like, you know, are the boys going to camp or like what's going on this summer? And she's like, oh, well, you know, Nico's kind of like not doing that. He can't kind of do that. And I'm like, he can't kind of do what? She's like, oh, he's not really camp age anymore. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a camp age.
There is a camp age.
Oh,
There's
no.
Going to
age
age
where
out.
like they can't do anything. I mean, they can.
I didn't even know
We can
camp
put
was a
them and
thing.
stuff, but like.
well, that's where you get
And
started at like the
also-
sports
Camp is
camps and
awesome.
whatnot.
Right.
Yeah,
And
so
he's
many
going
of
into
those-
college. He's going into high school, so he's playing football. So he's doing some things during the day and stuff like that. But luckily, her husband's a teacher, or he works in the school system, so he's home during the summer. But like,
What if
you
he
know,
wasn't?
there's all these things that like, what do you do? And like, that's why it's good that we have these types of forums, right? Where moms can learn these things before
it happens.
that day happens. Because you're like,
I would say
I
that
don't know, I just
age
started a
was
new
the
job, or, like, I
hardest
don't know
for
what to
the
do.
summers,
That's
right?
gotta be.
Because if you can drop them off at camp, go do your thing, you're good. But when they're too old to go to camp, but too young to drive, you know,
tell
but
me
then
about
they, you know,
That's where
maybe
you are.
the practice camp is just from 10
right
to
now.
2, you know, and
What do you do?
So many of the sports camps are only half-day things. And I'm like, okay, so I have to get you there at 8:30, which is already putting me late getting down to Farmington. And then I have to leave and pick you up for 12:30. I was like, okay, if you
and
really
also
want to
they-
do
those
it,
are like
I'll
a
figure
2
something
hour.
out. But
and they're also kind of too old to have a babysitter, you know?
yeah, right.
And- and-
I was babysitting other people's kids at 13. Like, I can't get a babysitter for a 14 turning 15-year-old.
Yeah.
Trying to get my 13-year-old neighbor to babysit her.
Yeah.
Cheap
Yeah,
labor.
it is very cheap. Yeah.
Well, it's a lot more expensive than it used to be, from what I've found.
Oh,
When I
yeah,
was a
for
kid,
sure. That's why I
My
wanted her
cousin
to
used
do
to hand me
it.
a $10
Everything's
bill, and
more
I'm like, I
expensive.
have been here for 8 hours. Like, that is not covering my gas to get home. But I loved her, so she lucked out. You're out there, Shannon. You're welcome. I love that kid.
I'm looking forward to, and also have a lot of trepidation about the driving years, because I got a year left
too.
before Aaron can drive, and it'll be nice to have somebody else that he can get, because he's the sporty one, so he can get to his practices and whatnot. And
Yes.
doesn't need me, although he does need a car, which will be the other issue. But and then of course the trepidation comes from where we live in Enfield. There are I swear there's accidents on 91 like every other week.
You are always
Yeah.
Like there's always accidents going up there. There was a freaking car on fire 2
was
weeks
really
ago
funny.
when I went.
So, what you're going to be paying for teenage boys on your insurance
Well,
will
and that-
help you with the college, sticker shock.
Oh yeah. I'm aware of that already. Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
true.
we've already
Really?
totaled. We've already
Yeah,
totaled
boys
2
are more
cars,
expensive.
so it's
so funny.
it's fun.
Yeah, it's messed up.
Oh yeah,
it's
I'm not
messed
looking
up.
forward to it at
It's
all. That's why I
messed
say
up.
with trepidation. That's why I found out. I guess Connecticut, you don't get your learners until you're actually 16 anyway. So
Yeah.
where I grew up in Saskatchewan, I don't know if they've changed it. They may have. I haven't lived there in 24
Wild,
years.
Wild West.
So it was you got your learners at 15. And
Oh,
then
okay. I thought it was
Younger.
going to
I
be
thought it
like
was older.
13.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Oh, I thought she was gonna say like 21.
No,
We both,
Well, if
yeah,
you
we
were
were
on
both
the
on the same page.
13-year-old
My brother was
on the
driving
road.
us around in my grandma's pickup truck at 12 on the farm.
Yeah.
Like he
I
would,
started driving way too young too, but that's a different podcast.
it was fun. Well, because my grandma, she grew up, she
Her
had
wild years.
in Saskatchewan, a lot of the farms are all big wheat farms, right? So during harvest season, my brother being the older one, he got
What'd you
the
guys
job
harvest?
of driving out. What's that?
What were you harvesting?
Sorry.
Wheat,
what were you
right?
har-
Wheat.
oh,
Wheat.
okay.
Wheat. Okay.
Sorry, I was just curious.
We're in the grain belt,
Okay.
the bread belt they call it.
It wasn't ice. Okay.
So
This is
yeah,
Canada.
my grandparents had wheat fields.
It's not ice though.
But that would be my brother's job, would to be driving lunch out to the men in the field who were on the combines taking the wheat off the
Nice.
field and whatnot. And so, but he would be also responsible for taking his younger sisters back to because we'd like to go out there. It was fun. And then they thought he was following the path, but my brother was driving all over the doing donuts.
Yeah, that's the price of the insurance.
There you go. And that's why
And
these
that's
days
why
we pay
insurance is
more.
so high for boys.
Yes.
See, now I'm thinking back to like when my mom, like what she used to do and how things were for me for the summers when we were kids. And
I
Oh my
don't
gosh,
think
it was
I
so
never went
feel
to
like
I never
my
went to
neighbors
I was
camps.
just
watched
outside,
us.
running around.
That's, I feel like they
On
just
my
kicked
bike.
us out of the house, went to
Or just
work,
sitting
and the
on my
neighbor
neighbor's
kids,
My mom never let
like
me
the
go
neighbor kids
far.
would watch
She
us.
never let me go far, but I would always
No.
at least be outside.
Yeah.
and
Well, I'm
if,
fully
like, a
Gen X.
neighbor-
It was like, go out, get home when the lights come on.
Like that was it. I
Yeah.
took my bike.
Yeah.
We went out, and all my babysitters lived
And no
in the
cell
block,
phones. So
and we
Yeah.
would just hang out at their houses all day.
have a baby.
I don't know. It
Oh, I
was
guess
like-
I had
there
3
was
older
just-
siblings.
Yeah.
Oh, see, yeah, I was the oldest.
That explains that.
It was just freedom. But then I could flash back
Like,
like
I
to
would
the
never
stories.
let my kids do
No,
No.
any of the
like
things I did.
take their bike, go down the street, come back without me seeing. Never.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
never.
I gotta
would
see them.
never do it. Like, and me and Lance talk about that all the time. With like all the things that we were able to do when we were young, like
Yeah.
7, 8.
Yeah,
I,
like
I had a
Madeline's
strict
age.
upbringing, so mostly him. But like he would be able to like take the bike all the way down the hill, come back
Yeah.
up. He's like, I would never in a million years let my kids do that, and I'm
No.
like, neither would I. Like I would never do it.
No, and our
I do.
Because
parents
it's just
did
my
it.
trust, my. I watch way too much Dateline.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and I've always
That's what I was
watched
gonna
that
say.
stuff. I've always like
Yeah.
watched stuff like that.
Yeah,
I just can't. I can't let my baby get taken. I just can't.
I was talking
will
to
burn
Lisa.
this
But
world
you
down.
gotta
You
give
gotta give
them
them a degree
So if anyone
of-
wants to go to Lisa's house tonight.
Yeah. You got to give your kids a degree of freedom so that they have enough room to make smart decisions and learn from not life-changing catastrophic decisions, but learn from those little small decisions maybe they shouldn't have made, you know.
So thanks for joining us. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and rate us 5 stars if you're listening. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye bye.